So almost every Siege creator has made their own tier list, from Braction to Navi to even like DG. And I decided it would be a fun video if I did it myself, but I would explain each pick and why. I guess I haven't watched personally my own operator tier video. I haven't watched anybody's, to be honest, because that's really just personal preference and personal thought. So let's get right into it. Instead of E and F, I'm going to change F for needs rework, like the operator needs a rework, and E I'm going to change to needs adjustment. Now, those two things, way different. What I mean by needs rework, like for example, we're going to start out with Chichanka. His whole ability, everything needs a rework. Someone like Glaz, like for example, maybe his rate of fire needs a little bit of a buff, or his ability needs just a slight adjustment. That's what I mean when it comes to that. So I'm going to put Glaz in needs adjustment because they tempered with Glaz quite a bit in the past few years. Back when they released his elite skin, he was actually way more viable and way more powerful. And it seems like over time they kept nerfing him, and he's basically useless in this meta today. I'm going to put Finka as well as needs rework. Now, I was going to put her in adjustment, but I think that Finka's ability, as it is, cool in some aspects, but I just don't see her being very viable. There's way better operators, like attacking-wise, than Finka. I think Finka needs a little bit more of a rework, kind of something like maybe Doc. I read something about someone saying that Finka should get like a tablet, kind of like Dokubi, and that she can pick who to stem. But I think at the end of the day, she should just end up being like Doc and get like some type of stem pistol, and she should be able to just shoot someone with the stem pistol and maybe permanently uh, getting their healing up, I guess. But I just don't see her being very viable. I'm going to put Fuse and needs adjustment. I think that Fuse needs to become a 2-2 instead of a 3 armor 1 speed. Maybe they need to adjust his number of gadgets that he has, because his cluster charges, if they make him a 2-2, he's going to be a little bit unbalanced because he's going to be faster and his gadgets are going to be way quicker to place down. But if they just make him a 2-2, maybe give him 2 fuse cluster charges, then he would be fine in my opinion. I'm actually going to put Smoke in S tier. I think that Smoke is the prime example of when it comes to, it's one of those operators that it actually takes skill to be good at, even though at the base it's just throwing smoke canisters into like a line of sight, and the gadget is very powerful. But I see a lot of bad smoke players, and if you master, for example, the shotgun SMG duel mixed with the gadget deployment, you're going to be unstoppable and people are going to want to play with you. Smoke is just one of those operators that there's definitely a skill gap between the player base. I'm going to put Zofia A tier because, in my opinion, she is better than Ashe, which is actually going to lead me to putting Ashe in B tier. Now, Ashe is one of those operators, in my opinion, that's like kind of like a crutch. People just use it to run a gun, and I don't like. I'd rather have a Zofia player than an Ashe player on my team, because Zofia just brings way more utility, even though she is only a 2-2 compared to Ashe's 3-1. But overall, the utility. Now, this whole list is based off, like, in my opinion, there's a couple factors that go into it. It's the complex ability that the operator has to withstand. And, for example, Smoke is one of those operators that it's kind of like do or die. You're either a very good smoke player or very bad. It takes time and skill to become a good smoke player. I think Ashe is one of those operators that it just doesn't take that much skill. You just run at people and you shoot, which this game isn't meant to be. This is supposed to be a team game. I'm going to put Warden C. I just think that he's a little underwhelming, at least when it comes to rank play. It's just, if people aren't using smokes, or you're not in the situation where you're putting yourself in a predicament where you're getting stunned out, or if there's a blitz, then like he's almost useless when it comes to ability wise. Like, of course he has a C4 now, which makes him a lot better than what he once was, but I just find him very underwhelming in my opinion. I'm gonna put Thatcher A tier just because what his gadget brings, but I just think there's a little bit of a skill gap that Siege needs to add when it comes to Thatcher and his gadget. I think they need to tweak his gadget a little more, so it's not like, bad players just crush on Thatcher because they're bad. It's like this. There's like this bad stigma that if you're playing like poop and you're not getting kills, you go Thatcher Thermite, and like I just think it's kind of stupid that you can throw one EMP and destroy almost a whole room of like gadgets or a whole vicinity of gadgets. But overall, Thatcher has great loadout. The L8 is such a good, consistent weapon, and he of course has the AR-33, decent pistol, Claymore. So his utility is amazing. I would put him in S tier, but he's just not a complex operator to use in my opinion. He's very easy. You just throw his gadget and then boom. Even though might be controversial, but Velk is one of those operators as well, in my opinion, that it takes a lot of skill to actually use her because, of course, she has one of the worst guns in the game, but her gun isn't that bad, even though it is one of the worst statistic gun in the game. She has a Desert Eagle, but she has 3 cams that you can throw literally anywhere on the map that provides intel. And that's something that this game feeds off of is constant intel, and that's what she brings. And there's definitely a skill gap between, the golds and plats that use coconut bra cams and then people that get creative with their own. I'm gonna put Twitch in C. Ever since the recoil nerf, I almost find Twitch very underwhelming because the reason why people use Twitch was for her gun and then her gadget. And I think that what they did was when they actually nerfed Twitch, it made her gadget have like unlimited tasers and it refuels. Like, I get it. They're trying to do what they meant for Twitch to do when Twitch actually came out, when the game launched, but I just find her very underwhelming. I'm putting Gridlock in A tier, same with Nomad, because the flank denial is just insane. Now, it's a little annoying that they're very easy gadgets to place, but I would say Nomad takes a little bit more skill than Gridlock because, of course, the AK-12 has way more recoil than any of Gridlock's weapons, even though Gridlock is thick as hell. And placements matter more. So actually, I'm going to put Nomad on S because Nomad can change the game so much, man. If you have a Nomad on board and you use her properly, just the flank watch, it just cuts off so much, man. And I see so many bad Nomads place Nomads in such bad positions where the Nomads can actually get shot, and then you guys get flanked because you actually thought that you had a decent Nomad or you had a Nomad on flank. Oryx, he's going D tier. Oryx, I don't know. He's just not one of those ops I see being very viable, especially in like competitive play. But when we're thinking of ranked, he just doesn't bring. He can move very fast. That's cool and all, but like, I don't know. I just don't see him being very viable in my opinion. Like, I get what he's supposed to do. He wastes a lot of time. Like, he does what Cavi does basically, which is waste a lot of time. And okay, next is Cavi. I'm gonna put her in D. I'm trying to look at this in an aspect of like Plat 2 and up when it comes to ranking, and I just don't think Cavi's a very viable pick because what she brings to the table is, of course, her guns are very underwhelming, especially when her pistol got nerfed quite a bit. Of course, she does have the spaz, or not the spaz, I forgot what it's called. She has the shotgun that's like the spaz. Okay, she does have the spaz 15. I'm a little stupid, as you can tell. But I just think overall that her ability is very underwhelming. Of course, like, when you get into high ranks, how are you really going to get interrogation? As soon as the enemy team knows that you guys have a Cavi, nobody's going to be running alone. And of course, Cavi's very effective in like silver and gold and lower. But once you see a Cavi on the board and Plat 2 up, you're going to try to track her down as quick as possible, or you're just going to avoid trying to track her down, and you're just going to Nomad your flank, maybe even throw a Gridlock, or just have somebody on flank watch. So I just don't think she's very viable when it comes to the higher ranking. Of course, a lot of people like watch Godly and think that, Cavi's like the best op, but he's just a good player, and he makes her good. So, okay, so I'm actually going to group up Maestro and Echo. Both put them in A tier because, in my opinion, they're both the strongest defenders because they can deny plant, but Maestro can do so much. I'm putting Maestro in S tier. I don't care. He has an 81 round mag, which even without ACOG, he's still such an amazing operator. He has no recoil on his LMG. He has a bailiff and impact and barbed wire. So like he can make rotations. He can do almost everything. He can deny every gadget basically. Besides, I think EMPs, which I actually think he can shoot, but don't quote me on that. Just an overall amazing operator. Like you take him on, for example, consulate downstairs in garage, and you place a maestro cam in under the black car and under the white truck, and it's almost hard to like you're not gonna be able to destroy it. It's very hard to destroy it. You're either gonna have to get a Twitch drone in somehow, which of course he can destroy, or you're gonna try to have to get some type of impact. Like if you're a bad maestro player, then of course you're gonna just open and get like stupid and try to shock everything, and then it's gonna get destroyed. I think maestro is definitely one of those operators that sit that if you're a good maestro, you're a very hard person to beat in a ranked match. When it comes to Echo, the only reason I'm not putting him in S tier is just for the fact that IQ is such a hard counter to him, and because how much noise this thing makes when it floats around. But like overall, his gun, he has a better weapon than the MP5 with a suppressor. He's just a great op for denial. Like if you have both your echo drones or even one echo drone left with 10 seconds left, you don't even need to shoot anybody. You can just deny it with a one echo drone. Echo is definitely one of those ops that you need to be skilled and understand the utility based. Just like Maestro, you need to preserve your life. Just like Smoke, you need to preserve your life for the final seconds, just to deny so much. Now, I think Lion is definitely one of those operators that needs a rework all around, like his ability. When Lion was first about to come out, their premise and idea for Lion was to actually throw like almost like an EMP into a room, and it scans that vicinity like an EMP. That ability would have made more sense than just the scanner. The scanners, in my opinion, is just it's stupid. It's kind of like Finka and Dokkaebi. It takes zero skill. So that's where I stand on Lion. Next is Clash. I think Clash needs a rework. I do not like her. She is a very broken op all around. Like every season, every other month, you see like some game-breaking glitch where she can shoot through her shield, and it's just making the game not fun. She's always disabled. It is literally a meme. She needs to be reworked all around. First of all, it's a shield on defense. So, in my opinion, I think it's just stupid. Mute is definitely going to go A tier. Having a good mute and somebody that understands how to control the SMG-11 and understand the premise of like just mute jammers and all around just when to get aggressive, like Mute is a game changer. Mute is an amazing operator. He's literally one of the best defenders. Like you always need either a Smoke or a Mute. They're always viable on any strat. Next up, sadly, is Mira. She's very goddamn annoying. She's always banned and ranked, but she is such a great operator. She denies so many pushes, and she is a game changer, to be honest. She changed so many strats. She made so many strats when she came out. So I'm going to put her in A tier because I think she's an A tier op. Cade is definitely a B tier op in my opinion. He's definitely useful, just like Ash, of course, but he has his own, reasoning to be in the game and to be used. But most of the time, you're going to want to use Bandit because you can Cade trick, but it's definitely more difficult than just Bandit tricking. I'm going to put Bandit in A. He's literally the better Cade. And to be honest, like Cade, I don't know, ever since the shotgun got nerfed, I think he's just a pain in the ass to use. Because you have like then AUG, and then once if you don't hit your shots with the AUG, or you have multiple enemies, you have to pull out the Han Solo pistol. And that thing is goddamn awful. You start panicking and you're gonna potato a whole load, man. I'm gonna put Capcan, Frost. Capcan and Frost both in C, because even though I think Capcan is definitely like he can be useful, but he's one of those operators that you need to be using. Like nobody expects you to use a Capcan, is what I mean. Like it's just it's one of those random picks that sometimes work or they don't. If people are like wasting time and they're not actually droning out, Capcan can be very viable, just like Frost. But most of the time you see them on the board, you know to expect a Frost mat or a Capcan trap. Next up is Castle. I'm putting him in B tier. I think Castle is very viable and he's a strong op when it comes to his utility, but when it comes to his weapons, it just his main weapon actually I'm gonna say the UMP. It's just not that good. It's a very bad weapon. But of course they gave him super shoddy or super shorty I should call it whatever. It's a very good addition to Castle, especially he has impact, so now he can impact trick. Like they're giving him more of a reason to be played. But he's in B mostly because of UMP. That thing is goddamn awful. Rook is gonna go in D, which I'm gonna get a lot of hate from like golds and like silvers, but I just don't see the point in him. Of course, you're gonna say that his rook armor, blah blah blah. I just don't think it's viable. I'd rather have a Doc on my team than a rook. I'm gonna put Doc in C class. Actually, no. Yeah, no. C. No, no. B. B. Doc is one of those operators that you either have a brain dead Doc that just wants to run and spawn peek, or you have a very good Doc that actually uses his utility properly, which is just a Doc stem. But that is game changing, to be honest, because you can go from literally being downed to back to 100 HP. That is very game changing, especially even though this game's a one shot headshot game, but it's very game changing. I'm gonna put Vigil actually in B. I think he's one of the best roamers, but I don't think he goes into like the A and S tier, just because of course it does take a lot of complex skill to use him and understand his ability, but he's very basic. Of course he has impacts, he has a decent loadout, but he's very replaceable in a defensive stack in my opinion. Jaeger's gonna go A. Now, recently Jaeger did actually get I guess a nerf, but kind of a buff, because now he's a 2-2, which means he's slower, but he actually can take more bullets. Jaeger's the only operator to actually have an AR, I believe. I think actually Wamai has the AUG now, so he's one of the most OG ops, and honestly, he's one of the most timeless operators, just like Bandit. Because you're always going to need a Jaeger. Like, literally, you're always going to need a Jaeger. Of course, they brought Wamai into the game, but it just doesn't do what Jaeger ADS does. But he has a great loadout, overall, great gadget. He has a good secondary gadget, of course, barbed wire, or I think a bulletproof cam. But, most of the time you're going to be using barbed wire. I don't know if I want to put Wamai in C or B, but he's one of those ops that's situational, and if you use it wrong, he can be very useless. So I'm gonna put him in B just because it actually takes skill, even though you think you're just throwing down dis. A lot of things factor into using Wamai properly, like his gadget deployment. When you're putting down his like dis, frisbees, whatever. I see a lot of people stack up their dis like beside each other, and it just most of the time if somebody throws a nade or an Ash charge or Zofia charge or whatever, it's gonna actually explode both Wamais and everything in that vicinity. So I see Wamai used wrong a lot, so that's why I'm putting him in B tier. The thing that makes Wamai more, the only reason that you would pick Wamai over a Jaeger in that situation is kind of the Capital bolts. Nothing else can stop Capital bolts in this game, besides Wamai's gadget. Montang, I'm gonna put him B tier because if used correctly, which it's not hard to use Montang, it's literally just standing still and baiting at that point, but it's constant intel and teamwork all around that makes him a B tier op in my opinion. If you, for example, if Montang has somebody in his line of sight and he's calling out properly and he's not, moving back and forth, about to get TK'd, then he can be very viable. But there's a lot of bad Montangs, so it does take some type of skill to use that shield. I'm putting Blitz in D tier. I think he's a very underwhelming operator ever since he got nerfed heavy, which was his ADS speed on his gun and pistol. So he's just underwhelming as hell in my opinion, and it's almost like a throw up. IQ is definitely an A tier up at this moment. Ever since IQ got the angle grip for her LMG, She's literally very viable just because of what her gadget does. She can see, like for example, a visual. She can see people on cams if they go under. It's just free kills at that point. But she can see literally every gadget, so it's just constant intel with IQ. So she's such an amazing op. But they definitely need to nerf her LMG because that is such a crutch for kids right now. It's like Ash, but you know, more cracked with 50 rounds. Legion is gonna go C tier. I just no, Legion's gonna go B tier. Even though he did get nerfed very heavy, I still think he's very viable. He can make rotates, and he is intel to the fact that you're gonna hear somebody if they get gooed, and that's gonna slow the person down and do a little bit of damage over time. Nook is one of those like Nook is kind of like Warden, very situational. That's why I'm gonna put him in C tier, or her, I should say. She's not a bad op, but she's just not like the greatest. It's not something you need to pick. It's like one of those Hail Mary operators that nobody's gonna expect. Buck is gonna go B tier. I would put him at A tier if he still had grenades, but even though they did give him a claymore, but in my opinion that's less utility. His pistol is alright. His AR is good, but it bounces like a stripper's butt. Overall, he's a great op, and he's repping Canada very well. Sledge is my personal favorite. I'm going to put him in A tier. Overall, he has grenades. He has, of course, that sexy sledgehammer. And if you have the Lee, he has a big dildo. He's overall a great operator. He has SMG-11, which is one of the best guns if you know how to master it. Overall, he's just great. He can play vertical. He can, he explodes shit with nades. He's a great soft breacher. The only thing that Buck can do that Sledge really can't is play vertical from under, unless you throw nades. But Buck has more utility in that aspect, and Buck is a little bit more quicker when switching gadgets. Callie, I'm gonna put her in C. She's not useless, but she's also very situational. She doesn't do what Thatcher does. It takes time. It takes a lot of time for her gadget to go off, and I don't know. Getting barrel stuffed when you have a sniper is not fun at all. And I'm just not a big fan of her loadout personally. Capital is B tier. I would put him A, but I don't know what it is that's underwhelming when it comes to Capital. But like he is such a great operator just because what his utility brings. He has the LMG, which has like no recoil. He has an AR. Actually, I'm gonna put him A tier. I think Capital is very underrated, and he's very useful when used properly when it comes to his utility. So, yeah. Blackbeard is... I don't know. I'm going to put him C tier. I was going to put him D, but I understand why he's not on the same... Like, he is useless. Like, if you're not fragging, I'm putting him D tier. I don't care. The only thing that makes him good is that he has a stupid shield in front of his face, and that's it. That's really all that makes him good. You can't headshot him for the first few bullets. So I just think he's just not a fun operator, and he's not viable. If you want to crutch and you don't want to get headshotted, then use him, I guess. I don't know where I want to put Goyo, because like I put Mirror in. I'm gonna put him A. I would put him in S, but I just don't. I'm gonna actually switch Jaeger to S as well. But I'm putting Goyo in A. He's a very big game changer with the shield meta now, and he has the Vector, which is actually it suits him well. He has a C4 as well. He has utility, but he's just overall annoying as hell to go against if he's a good Goyo player. Amaru is... I'm gonna actually put Amaru in D class. I think Amaru is very fun to use. Like she's one of my favorite ops to run just for like memes and just to have fun, but she doesn't bring much utility at all. I think in the most recent update that they're going to do after the TS, if they put it to the live build where she can go up hatches where it's unreinforced and she pulls out her gun right away, I would definitely put her around C and B. But her guns are amazing. She has the LMG that IQ has with the ankle grip. She has an SMG-11. She also has Jackal's shotgun and a claymore, but I just don't think in utility-wise She's very useful right now, and especially before the TS, where she can't bring out her gun right away. It's a little hard to use her. I'm gonna put Mozzie in B tier because I don't know. I feel like Mozzie is one of those ops that aren't hard to use, but you can definitely see the standout. I'm gonna put Mozzie in B because I think that he's one of those operators that stand out when it comes to being very easy. Like it's kind of just like shooting these pests, and there you go, you get so much intel. But what his utility brings is amazing. You know. Also, the fact that this man has two amazing primary weapons, but he also lost his super shorty, so it's a little bit of pain in the ass. Alibi, she's going D tier. I don't care what anybody says. Of course, she has a decent weapon because of the fire rate, but I just don't. I'm not a big fan of her utility when it comes to her alibis. Her gadget's just very underwhelming, and it's very easy to spot a alibi trap, and it's very easy to destroy. Of course, when you throw it outside on like buildings and stuff, it can be a good bait, but when it comes to team aspect, I don't enjoy alibi. I'm gonna put Thermite actually in A. I was gonna put him in S, but I think ever since Maverick got released, I think Maverick is the superior hard breacher than Thermite, just because even though it does take longer to open a wall with Maverick, overall he has grenades, he has a better gun in my opinion, and he can do. He's not like he doesn't need someone else to help him basically. Like he doesn't need a Thatcher. Like of course when you make a wall soft, you can just shoot the soft bar, or you can throw a nade at the wall and open it. So I think he's just a game changer when it comes to that, and there's nothing that really counters him besides swinging him if he has his torch out. I'm gonna put Dokkaebi B tier. The only thing that makes her underwhelming is her primary, like I don't know if that's a DMR or AR or whatever. I think her primary weapon is just a little underwhelming. But what makes her a great operator is really just her ability. As soon as she gets cams, that's all the intel that the defenders have. The defenders either have to shoot their cams, or they they decide they don't have intel at that point. Then, so I think she's very underpicked operator when it comes to ranked, but she's very annoying to face just because she can call you and then she can hack your cams. So Yang is also gonna go in B. I think the recent buff is very annoying with what they did. I think they need to add recoil on Ying because there's nothing like my screen being all white after getting flashed and then killed by an 81 round drum mag that doesn't have any recoil even with ACOG and an angle grip. So I'm gonna put Pulse in S tier because I think that Pulse is one of those operators that you need to understand when to use his utility, like for example a C4, and he's constant intel. He's just like Valkyrie. A good Pulse player will be calling out the exact whereabouts of every operator. Now, the only down point about Pulse is his UMP, but that's what makes him such a great operator. If you're a great player, you can use Pulse because you can crutch, because you can get used to that shitty UMP, and it really, aim for the head, forehead. I'm going to put Jackal B tier. I just think, I'm not a big fan of the big, I'm going to put Jackal A tier, actually. Just because, even though he's always banned, he's one of those operators that's going to change the game all around. Like, if you're facing a good Jackal, which is not hard to be a good Jackal, he has an AR-33 and a PDW with, no recoil, both great weapons. But he literally finds the exact whereabouts of the roamer, and it's very easy to execute or make the roamers go back on site. He's just one of those operators that's annoying as hell to play against, just like Dokkaebi, but he just has amazing weapons. I think Ayana is one of those. She's C tier. Like she can be useful, but she's just a little underwhelming when it comes to her gadget at least. Like, she does have nades. I'm actually going to put her B. Because just what she brings to the table, she brings unlimited intel, a fake drone, which with teamwork you can do a lot of work to. But if you're like a selfish player that just wants to run Ash and run in, Ion is not the op for you. But you could also drone yourself in technically. So that's why I'm putting her B tier. Plus she has G3 6C with angle grip and an AR-33 and grenades. She has good loadout. I'm gonna put Ella C, even though I'm a fan of playing Ella. I just think that ever since she was released and nerfed, I just think she'll never really be the same, even though her gun, her SMG, barely has any recoil. Like, after the 10-15 bullets, she starts to get recoil, but she's very iffy. Like, you're either a good Ella player or you're a very bad Ella player, or you use Ella shotgun, like a rat. Hibana's gonna go in B. I think that ever since the Bearing 9 got a hard recoil, that it's a little bit more, it's harder to play Hibana, of course, just because she only has 21 bullets in her main primary, and the Bearing 9's a lot harder to control than what it once was, but she is definitely more versatile than someone like Thermite, because she can do stuff from long distance, but she can't make the same amount of holes as Thermite can. She does make it easier to get hatches. She could also play vertical. Like, she is a very strong op, but you have to understand how to use her properly and when to use her. Now, the two new ops, I think that the defender needs an adjustment, and I think the attacker and defender need both adjustments. They both need adjustments because I think that the attacker is too easy to use. Same with the defender. I think they're way too strong for what they are now. The attacker takes there's literally no, like, actual... There's literally nothing bad about him, to be honest. Like, he has an AK-12 with a normal ACOG. That AK-12 has, like, no recoil. It's the strongest AR statistically in the game. The defender, her gadget is just very strong. She's a 3-speed. She has a Legion's weapon, which the rate of fire makes the gun good. I think that they either need to make the attacker, like, a lot harder to use. For example, when you use someone like Maverick and you're torching a wall, you're in a very bad position. Like, you can get peeked, but you can't just, if someone runs out on you, you can't just shoot fire at them. You can't just shoot at them. You're gonna die. You're in this, like, shitty predicament. You're in animation. Same with Thermite. When you're placing a Thermite charge down, you're kind of screwed. You can't just, like, stop placing it. Like, you go through a whole animation. That's what I mean. Same with Hibana. Like, you have her pellets out. With Ace, you just throw the gadget and it opens the wall automatically. Like, it's too easy to use, in my opinion. Same with the defender. They need to make these two operators a lot harder to use before launch, or it's going to be like an Ella issue where it's too overpowered. Now, I would love to see you guys argue with me about my selection, but this is, of course, personal preference and just from my experiences and my outlook on the game. Of course, your ranking and your overall just experience with the game is, of course, going to be different. There's going to be things that you agree on and disagree on with me, but I would love to see what you would change and what you think I'm stupid on and what do you think I'm correct on. If you like the video, like and subscribe. Have a lovely day.